Let me go ahead, get started here. All right. So I'm going to share my screen and get started. Okay. Can everybody see my screen? We're good. Thumbs up. Cool. All right. So I want to start off. These are just some housekeeping items just to get synced up as we move forward. So the first is email cadence, and if you haven't picked up on it, uh, I'm sending emails out Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The Monday email is just going to be a recap from this call. So it'll have a link to the replay that's on YouTube. I'll do some kind of a summary with key takeaways. And yeah, just links to things and so forth. So that'll be the Monday email. Wednesday's the newsletter. It's like the kind of a deeper dive, and it also frames up, what we're going to kind of be covering on the call for Friday. And then Friday is just what you saw about an hour ago, just kind of a reminder call. There might be some links. You probably saw some links in there to some workbooks that I dropped. So that's what the Friday email's for. All replays are going to be on YouTube. I've already mentioned this. So if you want replays, just subscribe to the YouTube channel. And by the way, if anybody's asking for links, I am going to be sharing. This is just a link tree that I'm going to be posting in the call. So it's got all the links. You don't have to worry about digging through the chat for links. It's just all going to be here. And if we mention any links on the call, I'll drop them in here as well. So yeah, if you just click right here, that'll take you to my YouTube channel. Which if you, I'll just go ahead and open it up real quick. You'll see where it says BWJ Community. So this is where all this playlist right here is where all the call recordings will go. Chat Business for Nerds. Shout out to Bree. Bree is on the call. Bree and I have been collaborating just around ways that we can support, therapists and business nerds and people that are in her world. A lot of kindred spirit between Bree and I. We've known it. I don't know when did we meet. I don't know when we met. I guess it was sometime last year, and we collaborated and have been working together on ways that we can support our communities, since then. And I will say that the Business for Nerds, if you're on Discord, uh, if you want to if you have questions for me specifically, I don't do any kind of an async chat for Bill with Jake. Everything I do is either through email or through these calls. So if you want to connect with me in terms of async, just join this Discord here with Business for Nerds. And Bree was kind enough, I'll show you real quick, to set up this little BWJ nerd. So I've got my little space here in Business for Nerds. I'm going to create like a little welcome message. And then if you got questions, if you want to connect with me, I will be in this chat as well as other chats, that's throughout this Discord. So yeah. And the link to that Discord is going to be right here for Business for Nerds. It's an invite link in the link tree. Google Calendar. So if you just want, there's going to be there's obviously these calls that I have, but one of my intent, part of my intent here is to also create collective momentum between other communities. As I've mentioned before the call, really leaning into community building as a force multiplier is a big part of my personal strategy on growth. So collaborating with Bree and Business for Nerds is just an example of that. There's also Scott Perry. He hosts calls through the Success Circle every week. So, those events, people or community leaders who I am collaborating with, I do have a calendar. And if you just go here, you can actually, if you have Google Calendar, you can just click that and that should install the BWJ events calendar right into your Google Calendar. If that's something you want to do, there also will be a new website that will have a whole events collection that you can access as well, just to see where events are, where you can register. That'll be another access point for you for different events, whether it be my events that I'm hosting or other communities that are hosting an event that I'm collaborating with. So that'll be really cool. That's going to come out, should be ready next week. My developer's working on the CMS right now to finish that up. So that should be ready by the next call. The other thing is calls at 11 a.m. So right now I'm doing them at 3:30. They if I'm thinking about moving them to 11. I will on the Monday email. I'm going to probably put a poll out just to see if that's a time that works for people. So just let me know. If I might still keep them at 3:30. I might alternate, but I'm just curious if there's an availability there for 11 a.m. Second thing is, and I don't want anybody tracking attendance. This is not something I don't want people to like think of this as like, oh, you didn't show up. That's like a bad thing or necessarily. I'm just, I'm using this little spreadsheet here. I'm just wanting to track to see who's actually engaged and that's actually getting value, or is showing up to this, so I can make sure that the people who are showing up is actually getting value from this call. So my purpose for tracking attendance is to know who's actually showing up, because I'll probably will reach out to you personally and just say, hey, like, how's this working out for you? You seem to be showing up regularly, and I want to make sure that your time spent here is actually worth it. And so that's going to be something I'm doing for tracking attendance. And the last thing is Scott is, I've talked about Scott Perry. He is hosting a workshop tomorrow at 11 a.m. Eastern about unblocking bottlenecks. So, if you go right here to register for Scott's event, just check that out. So that's just some housekeeping items. Anybody have any questions about anything? Let me go and pull up my questions. All good? Yes. Okay, cool. All right, let's hop into well, actually, let me do this real quick. I'm just going to share this link. So I am going to put this in the chat just so people have it. Where's my chat at? I've lost it. Oh, here it is. Okay. Link tree. Okay, that's in there. Now, I'm getting ready to go into some of the stuff about the next part is the pull method. So I briefly referenced this on the first call. This is the methodology that I use for web design. And the thing that's kind of cool about it is anytime somebody works with me on their website, it always reveals marketing gaps and where there's missing pieces in their marketing or things that they may need to clarify. Because the thing is with the website is the website embodies your brand, and it embodies the experience that someone can expect. It kind of serves as like a hub for what it is that you do. So when I go through this process of web development, I really, I don't, there's more than just the design and development. There's the messaging. There's, what's the technical infrastructure here that needs to come in place so it can integrate with your marketing in a way that's functional and makes sense for what you're building. So a big part of these calls is to help people go through this methodology. Whether you hire my company or not, it doesn't matter. It's more about helping you get clarity on your site plan, everything you need to be able to launch and optimize your website in a way that's productive and valuable to your business. So for today, I'm going to kind of go through, and this is taking the pull method, which is an acronym for prepare, unify, lift, and launch. And I'm kind of breaking this down into steps. And today I'm going to talk about the actual site plan, which is the first step really in the whole process. And if you go to your link tree and also an email I sent earlier, you got a link to this thing called the content workbook. So this content workbook, I've got a video tour here. I'm big on creating videos. I over communicate on everything. If you haven't picked up on it by now. So there is like a video tour. You can certainly watch that if you'd like, where I just kind of walk through, like, this is a very extensive workbook. And as being part of this community, I'm going to be going through pretty much all steps of this entire workbook with the intent of accomplishing that first step in the pull method, which is prepare. So preparation is, you can even see here, like there's actually, there's 3 steps. Ooh, I forgot to put, I did this so quick. I forgot to put copywriting. 1 second. I'll do that later. There's another step here for unification, which is like your copy, your website copy, and actually kind of unifying everything together into a site map and copywriting that will be used for your website. But as you can see, there's like a couple things here that goes into preparation. There's a lot of prep work when it comes to building a website, at least doing it the way that I approach website design. So we're able to ensure that it's functionally set up correct and as communicating your value so the right people take action when they land on your site. Because that's the goal, right? The goal is to Make sure that it's set up in a way that it's scalable, but it's also communicating your value so the right people take action. So there's three main steps in preparation. The first one's the site plan. The second one being your brand assets, and then the third is messaging. And that's what this content is really designed to help you go through, is all the preparation stuff. So you have right here a checklist. First one being site plan, and then logo and brand guide. That kind of falls into brand assets. Mood board is about unification. It's like a collection of visual inspiration to guide the style of your site. Photos and videos, that's part of brand assets. Your messaging playbook, messaging, of course, and a domain name. And then there's supporting guides within each of these steps. So we're going to talk about site plan today, but if you're on site plan, you click this, it takes you to this tab here, which is where we actually go through, what is the plan of the website? This is think of this as like the 50,000-foot view. We're going to talk about goals. We're going to talk about like the scope, how do we see this website coming together in terms of pages? And what kind of technical requirements do we need to have with this website? Should it be accessible? There's ADA compliance, there's accessibility things that you can do. Do you need it? You need analytics set up for tracking. I do have a partner who I work with, or I just refer to. Like if anybody needs anything analytical set up, I just say, go speak to Lauren. She's amazing. She's somebody that I'm, building a strategic partnership with to help with all the analytics stuff for anybody that needs that support. Consent banners, disclosure policies. Do you have a CRM that you need to integrate with? If somebody completes a form, for application, well, where does that form go? Where does that information go? You can have it just send you an email to notify, or do you use a CRM where you want to have that information kind of pipe right into your pipeline for follow up? Email marketing, newsletter integration. Do you need a chat bot? Honestly, I don't really install these very often. Actually, I can't. Well, I've installed them on one site, so it's not something I do quite a bit, but it's a function that some people might be interested in. And then we get into like style design style and inspiration. So like, what types of websites are appealing to you visually that align with your individual taste and style? It aligns with kind of the vision that you have for your website. So that's the site plan. It's really here to kind of pull together the scope, the goals, the different technical requirements that you're looking to go through. Now, what I would recommend doing, because I don't want to spend a ton of time on this call, because it's in depth, and what I'm trying to avoid doing is overwhelming people on this call with too much information or too much teaching. What I would rather do is, and I think this would be more productive, is to open up the table to have people maybe ask some questions, and we can have some open discussion about things like your website goals, like what are you looking to accomplish. You can also take this, you've got this content workbook. If you just go to file and hit make a copy, you can make a copy of this for your own purposes and use it as kind of your own guide here for going through this process. If you got questions, you can bring them to these weekly calls. You also have, if you're in Business for Nerds and you want to ask me a question, just do an async chat. You can always go in there and ask me a question. So there's different ways that you can get support, but I want to pause here and ask the group here. I'm actually going to stop my screen share. When it comes to your site plan, your website goals, well, actually, let me back up a step. Who's actually working on building a website and optimizing? Okay, so Angie, Bree, okay, everybody. Kathy, I'm not sure. Is this something you're also working on?
Yes. Sorry, I don't have my camera on, but yeah, I am.
Okay, cool. Well,
Yeah.
let's do this. Let's go around the table here, and I want to hear from you. Where are you at with your web? Like, what's the big gap that you have currently when it comes to building your website? As far as like, I'm trying to connect this together in a way that makes sense, and I feel stuck somewhere. I just want to at least get an idea of where there's some constraint with what you're doing in your web development process. So let me start with I'm going to start with Tom because he's like at the top left and just pose that question and see where you're at on things.
Well, my journey at this point. The website that I have up was created by a friend, and that's looks like it was created by a friend. So
Okay, so is it aesthetics? You feel like the aesthetic look of it just isn't, or is it a user experience? Like, what's the rub? I
I
guess with
I think the user experience to the fact that we're missing pieces. Like I want to be able to put in an area for a blog, or newsletter or some form
okay,
of ongoing communication. Right now, it's really just a single page that
yep,
is missing a lot of detail.
okay,
And I think my biggest holdup is not knowing in what direction to go to because there's so many different options and so many different similar people, similar realm of business doing it in so many different ways. And
hmm
and just because I think one is a better experience for me, that doesn't mean that somebody else is. And is it really even a popular website? And so then I am just paralyzed and do nothing.
okay. Tell me a little bit about what your just so we can kind of set the table here. What's your business? What's your main goal with the website? Is it to generate leads? Is it to educate? Because you mentioned a blog, you mentioned email. Just tell me a little bit about your goals with the website.
Yeah, I think the biggest goal is to try and educate around what I'm doing with money and
Hmm.
infinite banking and and then because I know that it's not for everybody. And so like
Yeah.
I want somebody to be able to go in, and have that experience of learning, kind of do for yourself with the ability to then click and schedule a call. And so it is a lead form too.
Hmm.
So kind of I mean that's and then the idea, and I don't know, maybe it's just busy work, but is a blog necessary? Is that just a way to get people to continue to come back? That's my thought, but or is that just more work than I really need to do?
Okay. Perfect. I love that. I'm going to answer that question. I'm going to take notes. I'm going to go around the table and ask everybody the same because this is the thing is that you're going to find that a lot of the functions can be universally applied, whether it's infinite banking, therapist, coaching. There's going to be a lot of overlap here. So let me ask you one last question, Tom. Email. You mentioned email. Are you running a newsletter? What's your thoughts on email in terms of how this integrates with your marketing strategy?
Now, currently, I'm not, but I had intended to. Kind of that letter
Okay.
would be whatever that blog, and like, hey, here's the most recent blog or most recent newsletter. I mean, defining it one way or the other, I'm indifferent
Okay.
about.
Gotcha. Okay. So you're not currently running email, but it's something that you believe that can be a communication tool for people who are interested in learning more about infinite making and how this can benefit their lives in some way.
Right.
Okay, got it. All right, perfect. Okay, I've got notes here. I'm going to move around the table. Angie, let's go to you next. So let's start with tell me about what you're trying to accomplish. What are your goals? And uh, anything that you would be open to sharing. Again, this is a recording, so feel free to uh, I guess censor yourself where you feel like things might not be ready to open to private. But I just want to talk high level here. Like we're talking about a site plan and we're talking about what's your goals. So we make sure that we have the right direction on how you intend to build it out so it makes sense for your business.
Yeah, so my main money maker is the business that I've already like kind of got going on and I invested a lot of time and money into it and now like I just want to change it all the time. So I've realized that like I want to make it simple with this business that's more of my side hustle. So I'm here to kind of like just have like a home page, like one page, one or two pages, just a landing page to just start to yeah, just kind of get some traction. It's again, it's a side hustle, so I just want to make it simple and easy. I'd like it to take off and be more of my main business, but I realize how like I just love to change things all the time. So I'm like,
Yeah.
can I just make it as simple as possible so that I can change it as I go? Because I even my website now, I probably just like I change it every like couple of months, and I'm like, geez, like I can't keep up with myself with how much I like to change things.
What specifically are you changing? Like,
Content, of course, and then I start kind of adding like pages because I realize like, oh, I'm always offering something like different. I come up with different ideas, and sometimes I'll launch them, and then like either just change my mind and I don't want to do it anymore, or it's because it wasn't gaining traction, so then I take that off.
okay,
So I think it's mainly kind of like for my, this new business, I just want to make it simple and get subscribers and get kind of people on board that like want what I have to offer. And the more I get to know what like they want, then I can keep pumping out more stuff. But I don't want to, yeah, I don't want to spend as much time and money as I did on my last one because I took it so seriously and got paralyzed by like the name. And I'm doing it again a little bit, but
totally.
um, yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so are you using email right now? Is that a form? Are you growing an email list or using email for subscriber opt-in?
Yeah, I'm just growing an email list mainly, and then yeah, I kind of have been getting my main off of like Facebook and stuff, but or like
Okay.
some of my blogs. But yeah, I just like want to get the website going. That's yeah, my main kind of goal right now.
So are you using a blog for this? And we're talking specifically to the side hustle business, not the main. This is where the focus is on optimization. Are you building any kind of like core content through your blog that can be used as a kind of like a knowledge base essentially? It's like here's a blog, here's an article, and it communicates some deeper insight into what you do.
I haven't started creating them for the new business, but even my current business, because like therapists are going to be coming to me like, oh, how did you start doing, this thing that you're doing that I'm still getting attention kind of like
Yeah.
indirectly from there too, which I wasn't expecting.
Hmm.
But so that's nice, but it's helping me see what they want. So I'll have two. Yeah, I'm going to be managing two things. It's going to be a lot.
Okay. All right. Okay, great. Um, and I should have, thank you first off, Angie and Tom, for like coming forth and providing that insight. I should have asked if you're willing to share. I kind of put you all on the spot, so thank you for for coming forward.
I'm
But
fine with it.
Bree, Kathy, if you're willing to share, feel free to share. If not, that's fine too. I'm happy to, because there's definitely some material from Tom and Angie that I can run with in terms of how to take this and think about our site plan, because that's like it's like a lot of people get stuck in this phase because you're like, I don't really know how to connect it together. And should I be posting blogs? Should I not be posting blogs? Does this make sense? So if you can kind of put some purpose around what you're doing and understanding how it like works with the overarching strategy, then you can, and then also, and we'll get into this when we get into like lift and launch as far as how do you design it in a way that's scalable, with whatever it is you're doing. Angie's got different offers that she wants to present, and it's like probably driving you nuts. You're like, now I got to spin up another web page to communicate this offer, and that's time and energy that's put into something where you feel like it could be used somewhere else. So which by the way is very normal. I mean, I have got lots of battle scars from overbuilding or spinning myself out and trying to build stuff, that just wasn't really moving the needle or felt like it was, I was overworking myself. So yeah, go ahead, Bria. I saw where you unmuted yourself.
Yeah, my stuck point is probably, I mean, I've shared it with you, rabbit trails, creating too many pages, too many websites. Now, I'm trying to organize them with the main website that directs people about, on going on different paths. But I have to become more clear with myself in order to make all of that clearer. So I feel like I'm in that process right now. It's coming together. I mean, you've seen some of it, but it's still like it's not done.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm hearing some similar feedback, Kathy. Do you have anything to share?
Yeah, I guess for me as so like I have like a website, it's like it's live and all that, and I kind of use it as more of like my portfolio to like my books. Eventually, I would like to add a store to it, but my question is, when should I get like my own domain? Because right now it's still like wix.com/ Kathy Enriquez author slash whatever, right? So it's like this long thing, but like I don't really send people to it because I usually send them to my socials instead.
Yeah, I mean, that's an easy one to answer. I would, so domains are pretty inexpensive. It's like, I think $12 a year for like a GoDaddy domain. Um, and it's my understanding that Google will index, like how it's indexing your site by your domain. So the sooner you get it pointed to your own custom domain, the sooner that Google will start indexing your site based on, it's called EEAT. So it stands for experience, expertise. I always forget the acronym, but it's essentially, well, let me get it. EEAT, experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. So if it sees that your domain there's domain authority and it represents a certain authority based on all the things you're publishing. Right now, you're not getting that credit because it's published to a kind of a subdomain through Wix. So my recommendation would just go in if you're getting a domain and in that content workbook. By the way, there's actually a section. Let me show you real quick on choosing domains.
Mhm.
Let me see here. Let me share my screen. Uh, so when you're choosing domains, if you go down here, it says domain best practices. There's just seven tips for how to select your domain. And yeah, this is all created by ChatGPT. I use deep research, but I reviewed it. I was like, yeah, this all makes a lot of sense. I thought it was really good. And it's got a bunch of links there that you can use to investigate. But yeah, I would get a domain sooner than later. It's like GoDaddy, I think it's $12 a year or something, or maybe $20 a year. So it's pretty inexpensive. And just have it
Okay.
synced up. Yeah. Yeah.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah.
So like that actually kind of leads me to like another question. So like all like the blog posts that like I've done and all that kind of stuff. So like the SEO just wouldn't really do anything because I don't have a domain, right?
Well, um, that's a good question. It's not,
She uses
I'm not,
Substack though, Kathy, don't you use, are
Yeah.
you blogging somewhere else?
No, all my blogs are through Substack.
Okay.
Yeah.
I thought
And
that
I
was
guess I do
important.
have like a couple of like I do have like a blog section on my site where like I have like I think like a few articles on there. So yeah, I don't know if that would like, if Google even pick that up because like, like I'm not like I don't have like my own domain or anything.
so my understanding, I mean, Google will index it, but when you switch it over to the new domain, it's got to re-index everything because you've got a new domain that your site's now connected to. So which will punish you on the SEO side because now Google's got to re-index it and go through its algorithmic process. So the sooner you do that, the better in terms of getting
Cool.
it connected. Yeah.
Awesome. That's good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. No problem. Okay, so there's a lot of overlapping feedback between what I've heard, and I'm going to give you the answer I think that's going to be most helpful when it comes to your site plan, and that is like when you start like first off, understand this like building your website, you don't have to get everything done at once, and I highly encourage people to be iterative when you build it out. So, for example, like I'll speak to Angie because Angie's mentioned like I just need something simple that communicates what I do, what's my value proposition, and how to take a next step with me. And that ends up being one of the highest converting ways to actually design your site, especially in the beginning, because when the more choices people have to make when they're on your site, it's like inversely related to conversion. But you also have to understand too, with the website, there's a couple ways to look at the website. The other side of it is also about awareness and trust. So people are going to use your website in different ways. And some people have high buying intent. They're like, Angie, I know she's amazing and what she does, and I just need to learn more about what it is she has to offer. I'm going to go to her website and just kind of look at what she has to offer. And if it makes sense for me, I'm going to take a step. Some people will use your website like that. Some people are just curious, generally curious about what it is that you do and how to get involved in your world. They like you as a person. If you go back to those, like I published an article called The Four Zones of Positioning. It's the Venn diagram. I think Kathy may remember that from that call. And, the whole idea behind it is trying to get into that fourth zone of positioning with your market, meaning that they're aligned with your values, your beliefs, and what you stand for. They're clear on what it is that you have to offer, and they also see that you're competent and have the resources to be able to deliver to whatever it is they need. So that fourth zone is kind of like the overlap between competence, clarity, and alignment. So when you have a website that can kind of, and the website doesn't have to communicate all of that necessarily, but it should make it very clear as to what it is that you do, your value proposition. So like when somebody's seeing you on social media or seeing you wherever it is, they're like, I really like what Bree's up to. Like, I'm just going to sneak in and kind of look at the website and see what it is that she has to offer. If I can get really clear on exactly what that is, then I'm more likely to take a step with you, whatever the value proposition is for the website. So if you're not sure about some of these other things like email, like I don't know, like I actually am not active sending email. Well, don't build that out in your site right now because you actually haven't proven to yourself that that email is even a channel that you're even going to engage with. So start with something that is simple, just like a one pager and a contact page. Like that would be the site plan that I would start with. One page that communicates your value, tells your story, and then a contact page to whatever that next step should be for you, whether it be booking a call with you. I have strayed away from relying too much on contact forms and the contact page, and I'll tell you why. People are, if you put an email, hey, thanks for reaching out. Here's my email address. Reach out if you'd like to connect around my service. Or if there's like a link to booking a call, that also works too. The thing about those forms, people will fill out those forms and then they have no idea if the forms even made it to anybody. So people have a tendency to be more hesitant to fill out the form. I've got a form on my website because it's actually going to go through some updates. Nobody ever uses it. People just email me. And it's because they want to know that they have a direct line with somebody. So just something to think about with your contact page. It's like people go there, how does that conversion actually happen? As far as a blog goes, because there's been some talks about blog or just building out additional pages. My orientation is always going to be, does the data tell you that you need this or not? Do you have data that supports the effort, resources, and time or money to build out this feature in your website? Maybe it does. Maybe you have a ton of articles that you've written. Like my Build with Jake website right now was just something I threw up, just put it up, stood it up, is getting redesigned and relaunched. But it's like I wanted to prove to myself that I actually am willing to publish articles that communicates certain principles and frameworks and theories that are relevant to what I'm doing in my business and how I'm helping people before I even add a blog. Because what you don't want is an empty blog. You don't want to stand up a blog and then there's no articles or content and then you feel rushed to try to like publish a bunch of stuff. So what I would recommend is, focus on just writing articles, write some articles, write some content. You can also don't think of it as a blog necessarily, but think of it as a resource that you can use in your marketing and sales process. So for example, Bree and I, we talk about this a lot, like in like the Business for Nerds community, where there's going to be discussions, and Bree will like, oh yeah, like here's the link where we actually go deeper into this particular topic or whatever, and then there somebody can choose to dive deeper into whatever the subject matter is, and then it's like relevant to them. It's you can use it even if you're prospecting potential leads and you're having a conversation and you're like, hey, you should check out this article that I published on whatever the subject matter is that you're referring to. And now you've created resources that's going to help in your marketing and sales process, and your website's kind of there as a companion to help facilitate that experience. So that's a way to think about the blog. Is first question is, do you have kind of like intellectual property or frameworks, principles, maybe anecdotes that you've experienced over time that you want to report on or write on? And could those be used as assets in your marketing and sales process? You can also feature like on your homepage. Like imagine you got your homepage or your main page that somebody's going through, they're learning about you and what you have to offer. You can also use it as a way to pre-frame people. So for example, there's certain things I want people to understand and be clear on before they're really ready to work with me. Sometimes we have businesses that are like that. It's just like there's the accompaniments that people need to have in terms of knowledge and understanding. I'm sure that's probably the case for you, Tom, with infinite banking. Maybe not. Like there's a certain level of financial literacy that somebody probably needs to elevate to before they're actually ready to maybe work with you. And maybe there's maybe an article or two that you can share that really like help shift that perspective in a way that when they come to you, it's like, okay, now we can really have a productive conversation because you have that foundation of understanding of what needs to make sense for us to move forward together in a way that's productive. um, you're shaking your head. I'm assuming that might be true for you and your business. So that's where a blog can be useful. You can kind of use it in different ways to feature content. um, let me pause there. Is there any feedback that anybody has based on what I'm saying? Is it making sense? Is there any gaps that you're confused on? Anything that can help clarify?
No, thanks for the comment about the forms, because that helps me. Because I mean, even just in my other business, I have so many questions, but I mean, it was for a reason to filter certain people out. But at the same time, it does, yeah, kind of prevents people from getting to me, because that's the only option for them is to fill that out. And email it, just being able to email me. I didn't even notice I didn't have a button just send me an email directly.
Yeah. And it makes the contact page so much simpler too. Like all you need is a headline and then a sub headline that just says, if you have questions or you want to work together, here's my email address. And that's it. Like you don't need it to be any more complicated than that. And it's something that you can do yourself if you're using like a Wix type site or something. It's pretty simple to implement. Any other questions? I got one more comment as well to make, specifically for Angie when you have multiple offers and that you're kind of testing out and how to think about that. But before I go forward, does anybody else have any questions? Uh, let's see here. Bree says, I'm removing my contact form and room. Yeah. I mean, it's just complexity. It just has, again, it's like you start adding complexity, and that complexity actually reduces your probability of getting the outcome that you want. So by simplifying down, uh, the forms look nice. They look really cool on a website. And we can, the way we do them through Webflow, we can design some really sweet looking forms, but it might actually increase barriers between it's like in the beginning, especially, it's like having more conversations with people you want to help, like remove those barriers to that conversation. Like, yeah, come into my email and let's have a conversation. The second thing I want to speak to, and this is for Angie specifically, because you're talking about, and I think probably all of us go through this as well. It's like, I've got all these things that I want to offer, or I want to test this, or, and I'm over here, I'm trying to launch these pages that communicates these offers. I would think about as a next step of building an email list. And it doesn't have to, or it doesn't even necessarily have to be like through an autoresponder per se. It could be that people are reaching out to you by email and you're just keeping a database of email addresses. It could be that you do want to do a newsletter. It's like with my email with Build with Jake, it's like I've got 3 intentional emails I send out every week, and it's all about facilitating communications with this community. Like it's a way to kind of streamline that process. So there's a very specific purpose behind it. But if, like, for example, with Angie, like if you've got people that are coming to your website and then they take a step to reach out to you by email, I don't know if you're using a CRM or what have you, but you can, or even if it's just a Google sheet, but you can take that contact information, put them in some kind of a database, people that have reached out to you, that have expressed interest in working with you to some level. And now, whenever you have an offer, just reach out to them, because these are people who are actually interested in working with you. And you can also, there's multiple ways that you can go about it. It doesn't have to necessarily be taken to the level of it being on a fancy looking website page. My recommendation is you don't ever take the time to like really build an offer out in a web page until it's been validated, meaning that it's something that people want, they want it, and it's been proven in the market that people want it, and it's also something that you want to do too, because you might launch an offer and realize that, gosh, I actually don't want to do this, but now I've got it all over my website and people expect this from me, and it's out in the open. So just some food for thought there, like as a way to simplify, just like it can be kept behind the scenes just through email communication. um yeah, go
Thank
ahead.
you. Yeah, I've done that. I've done that a few times and I'm like, oh no, take it down. I'm done with that one.
Yeah. I'll always, suggest like don't take it public until you've got enough data and validation that proves that it's something you want to do, and it's something that, and there's a product market fit too. Is this actually a good fit for the market, and there's interest and it makes sense and is positioned accordingly. Um, Let me see if there's anything else that jumps out to me. So we talked about blog, is it necessary? We've covered that. Raising raise awareness, what change? Yeah, keeping it simple in the beginning is always going to be the best approach, because then it allows you to build on a feedback loop with data as people are interacting with it. And Bree says creating too many pages. Yeah, it kind of goes back. Just simplification. Like that's the big message here, is like in your site plan, if you're if you're in that stage right now where there's some unvalidated things in terms of articles, email. Should I do an email list? I don't know. Are you emailing? Is this behavior that you've adopted that you can be consistent with? If so, absolutely. If this is like a big part of your marketing strategy and how you plan to communicate with people who want to do business with you or who want to be in your world, and you can create kind of those 1,000 true fans, absolutely. If it's not part of like who you are or how you like to do content, then you might need to think about that. That's another thing too. It's like Dan Nicholson calls it playing your game. It's like, what's your game? Is your game email? Are you a writer, or are you not a writer? If you're not a writer, then maybe your game shouldn't be writing. Maybe you need to think about other ways that you can facilitate communication. Um, Anybody have any questions before I move on? No. Okay, cool. So site plan, feel free to go through that content workbook, look through the different things that I put there. Full disclosure on that, it is a draft. It is an experiment. I've taken a lot of things I've learned over the years in web design, client interactions, and this is kind of like a version 1. So I want, if you do utilize this, like, please send me feedback. Let me know if anything isn't making sense or where you need support or confusion, because I plan on optimizing this with your feedback versus me guessing, on how I think it should go. So feel free to give me any feedback that you have. The last thing I want to leave you with, because I always like to leave people with a thought exercise, is this another workbook. hopefully I'm not giving you too many workbooks here, but this is something I'm doing. This is the other thing. This is something I'm doing for myself. And if I'm doing it for myself, why not do it together? Right. So this is the reflections workbook. And it's broken down into process, preparation, people, and product. So with this is something that it's a way to kind of like pause for a minute in your business and just reflect on what you're doing. And when you do that, you're able to kind of uncover, maybe constraints, opportunities, uh, or anything that might be misaligned with your ultimate goal here. So I'm just going to quickly go through this. I've filled a little bit of this in for myself just to give you some over the shoulder context as to how this can work. So like with process, evaluating each component of your business's operational system. So I think of the operational system in the business as marketing, sales, delivery, retention, and admin. So what I do is, and there's a concept called system reliability, where the more components that you have in a system, the lower the probability is that you get the outcome you want. So what I'm doing is I've got my marketing system, and we just talked about this earlier. It's like, okay, part of that is a newsletter. That is a component of my marketing system. So I'm going to break down like, what's the process? What am I doing? Who's responsible for doing this? This is all me. I don't have a ghostwriter writing my emails. This is all me. And then what's the impact, and distinguishing whether the impact is evaluated by data or assumption. So I talk about the objective, and then I talk about the data. Like, this is actual real data from my newsletter. I get about almost a 70% open rate and 24% click-through rate, which is really good. But it's because of the way I'm building it. Like, I'm actually hand pitching my newsletter. I'm talking to people, telling them what I'm doing, and saying that if you want to be part of this, you got to subscribe to my newsletter to be part of this community. So that's why I have higher open rates. If I were to go on social and try to do these big lead magnet, giveaway stuff, this would be probably half, if not lower, in terms of open rate and click through. And then I talk about constraints. Like right now, I've got a little bit of a deliverability issue that I need to figure out, because I think somebody was telling me that my emails were ending up in promotion folder, so I need to figure that out. And then I'll go through the rest of the components of my marketing process, and it allows me to just kind of see like what I'm doing in my marketing and what's actually working. Like, do I have like if like this forces you to look at data too, because if I am using assumption to evaluate this component in my process, it's fragile. It's not very strong. It's just based on a guess. But if I actually have data there, sometimes data can be hard to look at because it might tell you a story you don't want to hear. So it's a big look in the mirror for sure. But it's there to kind of reflect back to you what you're doing in your business. You can do this with sales. This is a sales thing that I'm working on. This is based on some data from prior businesses that I've worked in. I do have like a designer that works. I got a couple people that work with me at Gravity. Delivery, again, you're actually getting a little bit of a peek into my own business. You can look at that as just over the shoulder for context and how you can think about it. Retention, admin. I look at admin as far as technology, finance and legal, human resources, and then alignment. So alignment's like, okay, now that I'm like looking at my system, is this actually aligned with what I want to do? Like, is this something I'm happy to show up for every day? Or is this something that I have to really force myself to show up for? So it's just a way to kind of take a moment and just pause and see, is this actually aligned with what I'm doing? And, and actually, you can see how I'm getting, like right now I'm at a 5 with Gravity Web Studio, which means it needs some improvement. And I've got some notes in here that shows on how I think I can raise that rate of alignment and some moves that I can potentially make. And if you go through this and you want to share, we can. I know in like the Business for Nerds community, there's a like a voice chat. I'm just going to be opening up. So if you want to talk about this stuff, even on that voice chat, I'm happy to do that there. Yeah, yeah. Looking at what Bree says. Yeah, totally. Yep. Preparation just talks about, okay, I'm ready for a next level, whatever that next level is, or some vision that you have. where you see yourself going. Maybe there's a long-term vision that you have. You can kind of look out a year, potentially, maybe in the next 90 days. So define that. I do recommend, this is Dan Nicholson. He's a client and a friend and somebody who I highly respect. He's got two really good books on decision making, Rigging the Game and Solvable Problem book. And he talks about like defining your solvable problem, which would be really helpful in this kind of defining these pieces here. And then what do you need to prepare for the next level? These are your currencies: time, identity, money, energy, relationships, skills. Or are there certain people that you need to know or meet? Do you need a certain amount of money to implement what you're trying to do? Do you need to open up time? Maybe you need to buy some time back potentially. Is there a certain, I know for me, like portfolio is a big thing. That's part of identity. And I've like done a lot of work with revamping a lot of our portfolio at Gravity to raise that identity so I can kind of move to that next level. People, clients, listing your top 10 best clients, follow up with them. Is there any opportunities that you can explore there? Sometimes like the best way to get new business is just speak to people that you're already doing business with. Like, hey, let's have a conversation. These are some things that I'm doing. Maybe Angie's got another really cool offer, and hey, go follow up with a client that was with a different offer and see if there might be some interest there. um, any difficult or frustrating clients, how can we, because people that are highly difficult or frustrating to work with can create major constraints. And I talk about this like losing the love for the craft. A quick way to lose the love for the craft is to work with people that you don't like, clients, vendors, whoever that may be. So have an action plan on how to deal with those people. That's what that space is for. Same thing with vendors. If you do work with vendors, same process. Super connectors. This is actually something I have a lot of experience in business, is leveraging super connectors. It's like my last business. I'm doing it with this business as far as finding people that are speaking to your ideal client every day and how to leverage that relationship to be able to essentially outsourcing your lead gen to people who can benefit from whatever it is that you have to offer. It works really well, especially if you offer implementation services. So I'm not sure if that, I don't know if that matches with anybody here on this call or anybody watching the replay, but that's what this is. And then product, that's the last thing, just evaluating your product. Now, when I say product, I kind of use it interchangeably with service. I just think product. This is my product. This can be a service, but we're just using it universally. What is your product? Who does it benefit the most from who benefits most from your product? This is a really good question to ask that I don't think is asked often. Like who actually really, like you may have worked with different types of people. Like who's actually benefiting the most from the service that I have and why? And again, distinguishing between data and assumption. And then is your product priced and packaged appropriately? Why or why not? Is it scalable? How predictable is the process? How much does the process rely on you to fulfill? Does it make sense to swim up market with your product so you can charge higher rates? These are just things to think about. I'm just providing it there for people here as a resource for reflecting. There are things that I reflect on that are helpful. You don't have to answer every single question. It's just there as a resource. If you just want to look at your marketing process and that's a big constraint for you, use it as a resource. I'm not a coach. I'll just put that out there. I don't, maybe one day I'll become a coach, but right now that's not the plan. But there's people like Bree, who's a coach, who's awesome. You got somebody like Scott Perry, like they're great coaches. Angie, it sounds like you're doing some coaching as well. So I put this out there just because it's just stuff that I use for my own purposes that has been helpful. And hopefully it can be helpful for you, because one of the things, we're going through the website process. It could be that the reason you're not able to move forward through the website the way you want is because there's something else going on in your business that's creating a block. So reflecting back on the actions that you're taking and understanding why you're taking those actions can be the thing that you might need to be able to move forward with your website or anything else you're doing in your business. So, all right, I'm a little bit over time. Let me just stop there. Does anybody else have any final thoughts or questions based on everything we discussed today? Bree says, this is fabulous. Thank you, Bree. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the resources that you provided are going to be very useful.
Awesome.
And I love how you bring up Dan all the time because I'm a CCA grad. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know that. Yeah.
Okay.
It's funny. I've been working with Dan now for like almost 2 years. Well, over 2 years actually now. And he's like, I need to say this. It was like I kind of like now just adopted your language just because I've worked so closely with him for so long. And so it's just part of the vocabulary now
Yeah.
to talk about you. Dan's an awesome guy. I highly recommend people engage with anything that he's doing because he's smart and has personally helped me out a lot in saving myself from myself. So
Very cool.
yeah.
Thank you. This was really helpful, and I love how simple it is. Like, and all the steps are just really clear, and the language you use just kind of, I just overcomplicate everything. So it's just nice to be like, oh, thanks for thinking for me. And
Well, good. I appreciate that. It's yeah, I mean, overcomplication is it's normal. I think we all have a tendency to well, overcomplication is what I've kind of discovered with it is like it's a way of trying it almost seems like it's like a way of trying to reinforce certainty for yourself. It's like I'm trying to build certainty around what I'm doing, whatever that is. I'm trying to, is this going to get me leads? And I feel like I need to build it to a level 10, which ends up creating overcomplication in order to justify in my own head that in order for somebody to see this as valuable, it's got to be at a level 10. But really it just needs to be at a level 2 or 3. And that's actually enough, to be able to communicate the value. And don't discount like you as a person to show up in conversation. Cause I think a lot of people, I mean, this is just from my point of view, is a lot of people just want somebody to talk to about, we just like somebody to talk to about what it is that we're doing and knowing that there's somebody there that can be a guide and be a source of support and helping them through their life. So, um, yeah, appreciate you sharing that. Okay. Well, I'll go ahead and end it on that. Let me go ahead and stop the recording. That way.